I like kobolds. His name is Hopper, and he's my pup. And kobolds are also really good. They're good critters, and so we're going to talk about them today. Volo's Guide to Monsters. More like Volo's Guide to Friends. Kobolds are friends. Some people like to throw kobolds into their game as cannon fodder, essentially. Throw a whole bunch of them into an encounter and then wipe them out, and then that's it. Hi, buddy. Because they have low HP and they don't hit that hard, and so it's really easy to throw them into a low-level campaign and just wail on them, essentially. That's not the ideal way to use a kobold in your campaign. In fact, RuneSmith has a video, which I'll link in a card in the description down below, about how dangerous kobolds can really be, especially if you're in their lair. Kobolds are often in or near their lair. When they are incredibly clever. If you were to look at the stat block of a kobold, you might just disregard them because they have a below average intelligence, charisma, and wisdom. That is the average, first of all. And kobolds don't live all that long. Well, that's a complicated one. But kobolds can live a really long time. Kobolds can live up to 120 years. But good luck living that long when you only have like 6 HP. In a kobold lair are all of the other kobold friends, traps, their tunnels, and their clever escape routes, because their tribe is the most important thing to them. They have to protect their eggs. They have to protect one another. A kobold will sacrifice themselves for their friends, for their family, and much more dynamic than how I think a lot of people use kobolds when they throw them into an encounter and have them all fight to the death. That's not how kobolds typically work. I think they're far more interesting than that. Kobolds will run away from an encounter. They're like, I have 6 HP, and so they're not going to hang around and just let an adventuring party hit them over and over again unless it's for a good reason, like to protect the rest of the tribe, perhaps to delay the adventuring party from getting to the rest of their tribe so that they can escape. The kobolds might interrupt an encounter to bribe. Oh no! Okay. Well, you see, they are constantly mining, and so they have all these gems and unique shiny artifacts and magic items and things like that they will just happily trade away for their lives. Kobolds are obviously smart enough to do this. I remember when I was running the Tyranny of Dragons campaigns, the official 5e modules, which started with Horde of the Dragon Queen and then went into Rise of Tiamat, and there were so many kobolds, and it never described how to run them. It was just encounter after encounter of cannon fodder. It wasn't fun. I started replacing kobolds with what I thought were more interesting creatures, but that was only because I didn't understand how interesting they were. Speaking of Tiamat, kobolds believe that they are descended directly from Tiamat. There's a whole origin story that relates to religion and the gods and stuff like that when it comes to kobolds and Kurtlemak, their god, and how Kurtlemak was betrayed by the gnome god and all these different things, which is, there's some cool stuff in there. A lot of what Wizards of the Coast kind of latches onto is the racial hatred. If you know me at all, it's something I throw out almost immediately. I don't like to focus on that kind of thing. My relationship with that kind of thing is complicated. I don't like to erase history. I think it's important that it stays there. I think people, and therefore entire races of creatures in fantasy settings, are more interesting and thoughtful than these books kind of portray them as. It's like every kobold is supposed to hate every single gnome for something that happened eons ago. And it doesn't matter how true it is. Like, gods walk the earth, right? So we know these things are true. But that doesn't mean that you're gonna hate every single gnome forever. Like, what is that? I'm over it. Kobolds have a rich history of their own, and it's not all based on hatred. Something that can happen randomly is a kobold is born with wings, which is like super cool, right? Because they come from Tiamat, so it's like a gift from their dragon origins. They're called Urds, which is a bit of a funny name, and they just find a way to have the kobolds like hate one another sometimes or be jealous because some are born with wings and some aren't. And it's just another thing that I think we can move past a little bit. Kobolds like to wear their own teeth as necklaces to show how old they are as they lose teeth and new ones grow in. And they like to steal teeth from other kobolds to make it seem like they're older. I don't know. I feel like kobolds have far more interesting things going on than all this silly one-uppance and jealousy and hatred. Kobolds don't strike me as that kind of a creature. Kobolds can be fun. They can be chill. I like a good chill kobold who is just in it for their tribe. Ultimately, everything about a kobold is about their tribe. When kobolds are mining, for example, they love mining. They don't just do it because they have to, or necessarily because it's in their blood, although it kind of is. They love it because they feel, I'll borrow a term from polyamory, compersion. Compersion is when you can feel a deep satisfaction or sympathy or love and happiness when somebody else that you know is feeling happiness, kind of. I'm simplifying here. But for this purpose, it's almost like kobolds are feeling compersion and love for their family when they know that their tribe is doing well. And when is the tribe doing well? When the kobolds are working. If I am a kobold and I am mining all day, and that forwards our goal to having a stronger community and a stronger and healthier tribe, we have grown our numbers, we have earned more gold and more shiny things that is going to help us protect ourselves and be able to trade for goods in the city. Well, I'm super happy about that. I feel compersion for my tribe, for our survival. I like to focus on that. I think that's super cool and interesting. They're typically associated with lawful evil and therefore the chromatic dragons, but I wouldn't limit my game to that. If you had a good reason to have your kobolds be of a metallic variety or a gem variety, ooh, that would be interesting, then go for it. Have a blast. Kobolds have a pretty cool relationship with magic as well. So while dragons have hoards of gold and other valuables, kobolds sometimes really like to collect magic items through scavenging and things like that. And it sort of relates to some of their origins with Kurtlemak. They want to rescue their god through the use of all these magic items and things like that, which can be a pretty interesting story point perhaps. But what I think is super cool is not only do they collect magic items, but some are inherently magic themselves. There are kobold sorcerers, and they specialize in different types of things. There aren't that many clerics. Some kobolds are really good at things like destruction magic, or one I think is super cool are diviners. A diviner might be really essential for knowing where and where not to dig, for example. Perhaps knowing what threats there might be above and below ground, or just in general as they have terrible visions for what could happen to their tribe. And so they're able to very carefully avoid their demise through magic. Like, that's super freaking cool. I love that. I actually had a character that was a kobold, and they were completely inspired by a rock falling on their head and a diviner saying that they were the chosen one. And so they spent their entire life becoming an adventurer because that's what they were told that they were through some vision from a diviner. As a society, kobolds are going to have a wide variety of specializations. One that I like in here is the Beast Wrangler. That just sounds like really interesting. The one that's really good with animals and knows which creatures can maybe be domesticated, or at least like be avoided or, whatever. The stronger kobolds might be the warriors and the hunters. Some of the smarter ones might have just lived a really long time, and so they might just be very wise. And you want to listen to them if you want to have your tribe survive. Kobolds are scavengers, and so they might have an entire series of tunnels beneath a humanoid city that the humanoids are not even really aware of. And they might just pop out at night and steal bread, maybe old bread from a dumpster, or old meats and things like that. But sometimes the more roguish ones might actually break into a place. They might take things like tools that could be very useful to their tribe, but they will never try to put themselves in major danger. Major danger. It's really important to a kobold to not endanger their entire tribe, which is why they are scavengers. They're just going to take little bits of things that they need, but not piss off an entire group of people that's going to want to come and wipe them all out. And if you do lure trouble back, then you want to have a lot of shiny things that you want to trade away so that you can hopefully buy your freedom and your safety. To have these threats just take some magic items and other shiny gold and stuff and leave you alone. So this is me saying that kobolds are really cool. You should have them in your campaign. They shouldn't be just cannon fodder. Have them be super interesting characters with unique personalities, a lot of different color scales. Have them not just have a hatred for gnomes just because the book says so. Have it be more interesting. They want to survive. They will trade away shiny things for the benefit of their tribe. I don't know. Kobolds are fun. I really enjoy them, and I hope you enjoy them even half as much as I do. Thank you for joining me today on the floor. This has been Fatal.